Hey y'all, Ash Growem here. I'm here with Dorian Demetrulias. He's a cool alchemist fusion punk guy that I met online. I was searching for free energy on YouTube. I found this cool video that was showing a whole bunch of different types of free energy generators, and the Geet reactor was one of those that I saw. So I proceeded to go down that rabbit hole, and I eventually found Dorian's Geet motorcycle. So cool. It's like the real life, steampunk. And yeah, so Dorian, do you want to give us a introduction and brief background on who you are?
Sure, yeah. I've been like a artist, visual artist and musician for a long time, and I've been interested in technology as an electrician. I've been an electrician for 14 years now, working with a lot of solar-related projects, and very interested in the deployment of free energy technology, which I know a lot of people say you're not supposed to call solar energy free energy technology, but it really is one example of a free energy technology that's kind of broken through. And so I've had a passion for renewable energy technology, especially because my dad, he's really into Earthship style architecture, and he designed an Earthship style house back in the 70s. So the idea of being able to scavenge for energy from the environment through geothermal or through solar thermal energy, that's been something that my dad talked about, and I've been thinking about for a long time. When we had a neighbor when I was a kid, back in when I was in kindergarten in '89, we were living in Toronto, and we had a neighbor a couple doors down that had this funny looking car. It was all covered in like logos, and I was like asking my parents, why is the neighbor's car covered in stickers? And they said, well, son, those are all the sponsors of that. That's a prototype electric car. And I was like, well, what's up with electric cars? And my dad said, well, engineers know how to make them, but Big Auto won't put them out because they're in bed with Big Oil. And so I didn't think that paradigm shift would ever change. That technologies like the electric car would be allowed to come about and to do something that's countering Big Oil. But now it kind of seems like Big Oil investment companies they've divested into lithium, and we can do better than that. So basically, back in like 2014 or so, I got into the hobby of building motorized bicycle scooters. I wanted to have an alternative means of getting around Tempe, Arizona here. And I came to realize that there are motorbikes that you can build with, putting an engine on a beach cruiser that, potentially can get over 100 miles per gallon. And I thought that was pretty cool. And so I started building. I built a few different bikes. The first one I built, I got like a stretch beach cruiser and put a two-stroke engine on it. And then the second one, I experimented with using a four-stroke engine. And then the third one, I decided I was going to build this Geet reactor bike because I saw on YouTube, basically, like, I had been injured on the job. I was doing electrical work, and I wrecked my rotator cuff. And I was sitting there doing the light-duty only work. And the company I was working for at the time, God bless my supervisor, Lori, she basically encouraged me to do as much renewable energy-related studies on YouTube during the downtime. And I stumbled across Geet reactor. I was on the clock there working for her when I had this supreme realization. Like, I remember when I first saw the thumbnail for the video, like, I could immediately like look at it. I'm like, oh, it's doing something with the exhaust. Like, it's using the exhaust heat to run a process like a turbo. I could just tell at a glance. Like, it drew me in as soon as I saw it. I almost felt like I already like knew about it in a way. Like, I recognized it immediately. I'm like, there's something going on with that. That's not just your usual YouTube free energy bullshit video with a flywheel with two alternators hooked up to it and it's spring loaded nonsense where it's just trick photography or whatever. I could tell it's like, okay, it's using the thermal energy to do something. It's not nonsense or trick photography. And so I accepted the challenge of implementing the Geet reactor on a new bike build, and I did some crowdfunding. I raised about $1,200 from friends, through a GoFundMe campaign and Facebook, and I was able to build this working proof of concept, which you may have seen on YouTube, Geet reactor research scooter. And I was able to demonstrate that the Geet reactor is a real engine modification technology. It really is useful for making a gasoline engine be able to burn other things than gasoline, like straight vegetable oil can be turned into a fume that the engine will burn. But apparently it's not just a vaporizing carburetor. It's not just gasifying the vegetable oil into a propane-like gas. It's also capable of running on blends of gasoline and water. I was able to demonstrate it running on 50-50. And other people have done different ratios where it's maybe only 10% gasoline and really 90% fumes of water. So usually if you do water injection on an engine, I think that's beyond the amount of water that the engine will accept as fuel. And usually that you'll have it like it will quench the engine, or you'll put more water vapor than it can handle. But with this system, because it's thermoelectric, it is a thermoelectric converter, and it's taking the heat energy, and it's not just using the heat to vaporize the fuel, but it's actually converting that heat energy into static coronal arcing discharges that the fuel and steam are being forced through, and that is ionizing and breaking free the hydrogen from both the hydrocarbons and the steam contribute to the hydrogen-rich gas that it produces. But it's not even just that though now, because when I first built it, I thought it was just a vaporizer or whatever, and maybe it was making hydrogen or whatever. But now, because I've been studying Bob Grenier with Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project and looking at the thunderstorm generator, because about 2 years ago now, I stumbled across thunderstorm generator. When I saw that, I'm like, that looks just like Geet reactor. And they're saying, oh, it makes oxygen-rich exhaust. Oh, well, that's the same thing that Paul Pantone claimed about it. And I didn't ever get to the point of buying emissions test equipment to actually check the bike to see what kind of emissions it was making. So I'm basically, that is my new mission now, to resume my research and to also study the thunderstorm generator, reverse engineer it and compare it to, see what similarities are in the properties of the way it operates.
Awesome. That is really great information. And if you want to check out Dorian's YouTube channel, that is at Sigma Centauri. So SIGMA CENTAURI 6191. And you can also type in Geet reactor motorbike and it'll pop up. He's
Right.
even got a thunderstorm reactor versus the Geet reactor video with a diagram and everything. And if you
now I made that video like 8 months ago, and I feel like because I actually want to study it hands-on, I have a base understanding from what people have reported to me through YouTube about it, but I really want to get a closer look at it, because when I watched that video again now, and I'm like, I feel like my understanding has grown a lot since I filmed that video. And they still Geet reactor and thunderstorm generator are both the same kind of thermoelectric converting technology, and they're both using waste heat energy to turn steam into a fuel. But yeah, I don't know, the LENR fusion, and that there's it's really an implosion engine technology, and so yeah, we need to get a closer look at it and really investigate it. I'm really excited about doing the experiments myself and being able to show my local community, hey, this thing is for real. So yeah.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, LENR stands for LENR. It's an acronym for low energy nuclear reactions, which is kind of the rebranding for cold fusion, since big nuclear kind of took down Pons and Fleischmann there. So yeah, there's also lattice confinement fusion, and other terms that are coming onto the scene. So yeah, you kind of touched on it, but what is your updated understanding of the thunderstorm generator versus the Geet? And so just to summarize, the thunderstorm generator is kind of the leading cold fusion technology that's got the most funding and replication behind it. It was created by Malcolm Bendall, and he's open sourced pretty much everything you need to know to create it yourself. There's dozens of videos on YouTube. You can find people building these in your backyard. It's basically a retrofit to any gas engine. Pretty simple retrofit. So yeah, if you want to give us a brief comparison.
Yeah. So the commonalities is that they're heat exchangers and they are thermoelectric converters. With the thunderstorm generator, it uses a sphere within, or an orb within a sphere within a sphere, and the orb is the thermoelectric converter. I have this diagram so I can refer to.
Awesome.
With thunderstorm generator, the inner sphere is your thermoelectric converter, and in the Geet reactor, it has the bullet, and that bullet in there does the same thing. It's converting the heat into static. And most of the thunderstorm generator videos we've ever seen, they're just running water through there. But I believe you could potentially run propane and water, or you could run fumes of motor oil, or you could use Julian Brown's plastic reclaim oil. Lots of different things can be run through there and used to make a plasma. I would say it has to do. Bob Grenier talking about the implosion of charge clusters. That was really like the light bulb moment that happened for me recently, listening to Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. He was talking about the transmutations of elements are only occurring when there's implosion of charge clusters. And I just was remembering back to studying with Paul Pantone before he passed away. When I got the bike running back in 2015, I was calling him over Skype. And he was explaining that it really is an implosion engine. When I was talking to him over the phone, I thought he was bullshitting me. But it really is an implosion engine, because it makes an ionized gas, which is negatively charged. And when you put that under compression, it goes critical and it collapses. And that implosion effect, that's a commonality between Geet and thunderstorm generator. They're both working off of that LENR principle. And basically the implosion, the negative charge clusters, when they go critical, they implode so violently, that's overcoming the Coulomb's repelling force of the nucleus of the atom, and that causes proton swapping action with whatever protons can be borrowed from helium. A pair of protons from helium becomes added to the 6 protons of carbon, and that causes it to transmutate into oxygen. Or carbon can fission into 3 different heliums, and then those heliums can contribute to tacking on to other carbons and making those into oxygen. And so apparently that's why it tends towards making 20% oxygen when it's working optimally. For some reason, it tends towards making this natural atmospheric level of oxygen. So, and that leads to questions about why is the atmospheric level of oxygen really 20%? They want us to believe it's all based on photosynthesis and algae or whatever, but I wonder if there's it has to do with fusion happening in the core of the Earth, in the mantle of the Earth or something, and elements being emitted from that, or I don't know.
Yeah, I believe I might have heard from Malcolm Bendall that oil is also being produced by some similar reaction. Yeah, in the
Absolutely,
ground.
I believe that. Yeah, no, we call it fossil fuels, but it's really not dinosaur goop. It's a mineral. It's caused by the tectonic action of great pressure and combination of things that they make hydrocarbons underground.
Yeah, and so we're using the term implosion a lot. So just to give folks a translation on that. So basically, it's just the opposite of explosion. So like in a combustion engine, we're causing the piston to move upwards from an explosion. So in this case, you would be causing an implosion, and things would be sucked inwards. And so that sucking inwards is what causes us to be able to do some sort of room temperature fusion. And the word cold fusion, I guess under ideal circumstances it cold be a cold reaction, but I think what actually ends up happening is it's like a cool reaction, or just it's lower temperature than would be in a combustion engine. Could you describe that, and also how sometimes the the Geet reactor exhaust can have ice coming on it?
Yeah. So just to begin with, by putting a heat exchanger in the exhaust system of the engine and running steam through it, so we're cooling the exhaust system. So that's automatically going to raise the thermal efficiency of the engine by cooling the exhaust system or cooling the engine. The more cooling we can cause, the better efficiency the engine's going to have. Because like when an engine's overheating, it has like a loss of power, so it's better. And then so the implosion effect. So the ionized gases, when they go into the engine and they're put under compression, the charge clusters, they're already like starting to pull together because they're negatively charged. They want to clump together, and when they're put under a squeeze, then they really snap and collapse. And that actually causes like a double power stroke where on the compression stroke, once it's given enough squeeze, it becomes a power stroke as well because it pulls the piston up, and then there's the ignition. And so then basically when the LENR action happens of that ionized gas being compressed, that makes like micro Big Bang, which is basically what's happening on the power stroke. So there's power that's derived from the implosion, and then there's power also derived from the power stroke. And potentially, if we add a turbo charger to it, then there can also be added power on the intake stroke from the turbo, the momentum of the turbo. I was reading in Paul Pantone's book about how there's a way to make it so it's almost like the engine has power. A power stroke is on every stroke.
Yeah, the compression and the explosion as well. And also it makes me think of in thermodynamics, when you fuse particles, I forget which it is, but is it absorbing heat when you do fusion? Or no, it's or is it creating heat?
I think it's exothermic.
Exothermic. Okay, that's
But
interesting.
yeah, so when the fuel and water are turning from liquid to gas, there's a phase change, and that makes them become ice cold. And it's that ice cold temperature differential between the exhaust coming out of the engine and the cold fuel and water vapors going into the heat exchanger. That cooling effect, that's actually what drives the thermoelectric reaction of the static that is arcing and conditioning the fuel. And as to what temperature those vapors are coming off of the top of the reactor, though, is a good question. I don't really remember. I used a laser thermometer to look at. Like I looked at the exhaust on the Geet reactor bike that I built would come out at ambient air temperature. But David Pantone and Paul Pantone told me that it's possible that if you're having a very efficient Geet reaction, that it is possible that the exhaust will actually come out colder than ambient air temperature, and potentially so cold that it's actually below freezing, which is pretty crazy to think about. How much energy can potentially be soaked up by an efficient thermoelectric reaction, and then if the engine is emitting high levels of oxygen, it becomes possible to fully recirculate that exhaust. And there's demonstrations of guys running Geet reactor engine inside of a closed ballroom, like we see guys running the thunderstorm generator inside of a closed garage. And that could only be possible if it's really making oxygen-rich exhaust. So, and so that means it's possible we can fully recirculate that exhaust. And then it makes it possible that we could actually be destroying nuclear waste or other toxic materials could become used as a fuel to start the steam reforming and converting it into oxygen and recycling it over and over until it becomes fully purified and transmuted into mostly oxygen.
Yep. Yeah, and shout out to McCain Lee and his quantum kinetic well. He's working on doing transmutation on radioactive water
Oh
and
wow.
making it non-radioactive. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
They need that
Uh,
Fukushima stat.
yeah, so you can YouTube First Diffusion podcast, and their YouTube channel is Quantum Kinetics Corporation, so you can check them out. Oh, also we have to shout out Jordan. What's his channel? Alchemy.
Jordan Collins, Alchemical Sciences.
Alchemical. Yeah, if you look up Alchemical Sciences, he's documenting all of the thunderstorm generator process going on. They're going into mass production, and so they're creating molds right now. And yeah, it's really exciting. So
Yeah, definitely. Many epiphany has come from watching his channel as well, with the talks by Professor Robert Harlech talking about stepwise elemental fusion, which apparently that's a process that's happening inside of the sun all the time. And people say, "Oh, you can't do that here on Earth. There's not enormous heat and pressure." That's well, as an electrician, they teach you in arc flash training when they're warning you about electrical hazards that an arc flash can potentially make a blast wave that has temperatures that exceed the surface of the sun. Plasma, which you can accidentally induce a plasma field by making an arc blast, exceeds the temperature of the surface of the sun. We know that, and yet people are like, "No, you can't do it." No, we know that from electrical hazard training. Okay, we can make temperatures that exceed the surface of the sun. So, and it really comes down to how, at what level, what molecular scale are you measuring the temperature? Because at very small levels, there might be really high temperatures occurring where it's only just at a small place in the atoms where it's reaching these really high temperatures. That's how it could
yeah,
be like cold fusion, basically. Some micro fusion reactions are happening.
yep. And another shout out, because I just thought of it while we're shouting out, plasmoid-power.com.
Or
Dorian and I
thunderstorm.tech.
are, yeah, thunderstorm.tech is another way to reach them. And you can actually order thunderstorm generator kits, and they're full kits. The only thing you need is a off-grid generator, and you can get that for like $200 to $500 off Amazon. So
Let's get it.
yeah. So Dorian and I have grouped our order, and we're going to be placing it real soon. And we're already part of. They have a WhatsApp group, and there's plenty of other folks dropping their videos who've successfully received their kits. It's actually two others. I'm in North Carolina here who are in North Carolina. They have a group for each country. So it's definitely legitimate. And this is like real open source, citizen science. This is like people around the world from all backgrounds, especially, just non-engineers, just people in their backyards retrofitting engines with the TSG kits. And then they're putting gas analyzers, and it's showing like over 90% reduction of CO2 and monoxide and all the other noxious gases, and the
Really,
increase in oxygen.
it's a call to action, really, where we want other people to collaborate with us on building these kits, doing the experiments, and taking it to our local universities and petitioning the engineering professors to do peer review, because we can't have people denying, trolls online denying this technology when it could be verified and peer reviewed. And so we need help initiating that process, because if we have enough people showing local universities, it's going to become undeniable.
Yeah. So this is definitely, it's scientific in the sense that people have been able to replicate it now dozens of times, and they're uploading the evidence on YouTube with gas analyzers showing similar numbers, with all sorts of different types of engines and modifications. So it's proving the technology is real. It's here. And so now it's just a matter of educating people and bringing it to academia, and so approach your professors or your fellow students, start a club and just show people if you can build one. I think really that's the best evidence is just showing someone the generator running and then letting them put the gas analyzer and showing the numbers. That's really the best evidence and way to get people excited about it. And the truth is, like, it's kind of already too late to stop it, because Malcolm Bendall and their team have already gone into mass production. They've got factories now in Australia, India, and Thailand. And at this point, it allows the gas, coal, and oil industries to actually make money and become a green energy industry, because this can even be put onto coal chimneys, and it can clean up those emissions, and not just clean it up, but convert it into oxygen.
Look,
use
we're
it
really
as
gonna
fuel.
make clean coal. Clean coal is a real possible technology. We just use a plasma reactor, and then we can mine coal all day.
Well, I don't know if that's such a great thing, but
yeah, I mean, no, well, it actually, drill, baby, drill.
Are still dirty for the earth, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we won't have to create the not everyone can afford an electric car, and it's going to take a massive amount of more money and infrastructure for everyone to go electric. It's just not going to happen. And the whole the supply chain is extremely toxic for the earth and the environment and the people who mine those materials. So this allows us to.
We don't necessarily need fossil fuel like coal if it is, it's a mineral. It's not really fossil fuel, but this is another example of how it mineralizes, right? But we don't need that. We don't need oil or coal or fracked gas. We can produce, agricultural biogas or biodiesel. Various different things can be used to start the steam reforming process. And because the engine is potentially, we know from the thunderstorm generator studies that it can potentially raise the fuel efficiency. It cuts the fuel consumption 64% or more, according to these studies that these independent replicators are doing. So that means that, maybe you didn't have enough biogas from the septic tank on your homestead to run a generator effectively with a conventional generator that's only 25% efficient, but you probably can with an engine that's, if we can raise it to 70% efficiency, or what's possible with recycling the steam reforming, because the way it's working, it produces a supplemental fuel, which then goes into the engine, which then becomes more hot exhaust, which comes out and helps produce more supplemental fuel. And with the design that I have in mind, with the 6 reaction chambers, we should potentially be able to really absorb like as much as possible of the thermal energy. I think if you go beyond 6 reaction chambers, then you start getting diminishing returns, and it's not very significant after that. But potentially we can make water the primary fuel, and that you only need maybe some, propane or natural gas or biogas or whatever you want to start the reaction. And then this feedback loop starts occurring, and it is turning the combustion engine into a fusion reactor, in that a fusion reactor, the big scale tokamaks, they make this loop of plasma. Well, and that loop is happening inside the engine, where the heat exchanger part of it is like a particle accelerator that produces this ionized gas, and that goes into the engine, and then it's burnt and comes back out of the engine. And the hot exhaust is probably also a form of plasma. And so that hot plasma then conditions new cool plasma to go into the engine. So it's making a feedback loop of plasma in the same way. It's kind of a different shape. Instead of a toroidal donut shape, it's flowing in and out of the engine and making a feedback loop. And so that's where we can really potentially raise the thermal efficiency of the combustion engine to make it almost like an electric motor is, a 90% efficient system. We can potentially raise the combustion engine to that kind of efficiency, especially if we like double wall and make the reactor have like a thermos, like double wall vacuum insulated type structure to it. Which that part of it, now we're getting into like the fabricating. I'm working with a CAD engineer, and we're getting close to being ready to fabricate my design. I am crowdfunding for that.
Yeah, what's the name of your design?
The Hexemeter hydrogen reactor. and it's named that because it has 6 reaction chambers. Basically, it's based on the Geet reactor design with having a reaction rod that is the thermoelectric converter, and by having a manifold that splits it into 6 different chambers, that allows potentially we can optimize, like, it's like the surface area of the reaction rod. That is like the bottleneck for how much thermal energy can be absorbed if you only have a single reaction chamber. So by having 6 reaction chambers, we can potentially absorb. I think we'll get that ice cold exhaust effect out of this design.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up your design here so people can visualize it. So there it is.
There it is. Thank you, Mike Seafried, my CAD engineer, for helping me render that. Yeah, we're getting close. So probably maybe another 4 or 5 hours worth of drawing session, and we should have it finished and ready with the specifications for like a 212 cc engine that we're looking to adapt it to for a generator. I have the generator is a Wen brand. I think it's 4,500 watt generator here. It just arrived a couple days ago. So that's going to be the experimental engine. And I have a goal. I'm going to openly state the goal to get this generator retrofitted with either the thunderstorm generator and or Geet reactor and my hexameter reactor, and compare all of them, and then also use them to demonstrate the fuel economy that's possible for off-grid power generation. I want to take my travel trailer up to Lake Pleasant state campgrounds and go off-grid there and demonstrate, how much fuel is actually, necessary in order to live comfortably off-grid. That's really, the wintertime here, it's easy peasy, but if you want to have air conditioning power going into the summer months here, if you want to be living off-grid, you really need the generator running around the clock. So then we really need something that's very conservative on fuel, because otherwise you're spending like $1,000 or more on gasoline. And so this potentially, if the thunderstorm generator stats are true that it can reduce the fuel consumption 64%, I believe my design can probably potentially reduce the fuel consumption even more. And that may mean that, where it may, if you're trying to run air conditioning off grid and it's costing, $800 a month in gasoline, potentially that means that you're only spending $300 or $400 a month on gasoline. So that cost savings is so significant, like it creates a cash flow. And I'm envisioning, for customers, residential customers that have my reactor installed in their homestead, either allows them to produce power off grid, or if you're connected to the grid, you could actually be net metering and sending extra power back to the grid the way solar customers do. And then the electric company owes you money, and that helps you pay your mortgage. So you basically turn your electric bill into the payment on your mortgage, and everyone is rich. It's basically like that. People are talking about universal basic income. This is the real way to create wealth: is turning energy, the cost of energy, into wealth production. And there's a whole new economy that can come from that. We can coin a plasma cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and also the possibility of using water as fuel. Didn't Paul Pantone use Coca-Cola on his Geet reactor?
Yeah, there was a lot of funny fuels that were used. I feel like it's kind of, a gimmick or whatever. But the truth is, the soda actually the sugars in it can become a flammable gas, the same way vegetable oil can become a flammable gas. But what's most cost effective as far as, the cost per gallon of soda versus water or gasoline. And the thing about using water as the fuel, once it goes into that fully exhaust gas recirculating mode, then even the water condensation can be reclaimed. Some people criticize this technology, say, oh, if you start running engines on water, then water is going to start costing more than gasoline. Well, this engine can potentially recycle the water, and then we can also use the energy it produces to condense extra water out of the air with atmospheric water generating technology. RVers should especially have that technology on board. That way they can be anywhere and have a supply of drinking water. But even, homesteads could have rainwater capture systems that double as atmospheric water capture systems. If you watch the plasma channel, they show ways that you can condense water using a 20,000 volt DC current. It's only a few amps that it needs to do this, and when the dew point is high, you could basically be making water drip into your rainwater capture gutters
Also,
and then grow your food forests.
the outlet to your AC is dripping water, and then plus you
Yeah,
can, you can have you
exactly.
can catch rainwater
Yeah, you can
coming
route
off your
that into your
roof.
rainwater capture gutters as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so water, I mean, once you have an atmospheric water generator and a Geet reactor or a thunderstorm generator, you can pretty much go off grid, anywhere in
That's
the
the full
world.
ecosystem, yeah.
Yeah. And you bring some seeds with you, you buy
That's
a
the
piece
key
of
to
desert
abundance
for
right there.
$100. You can start your own eco village anywhere
See, and this
for
is
real
why
cheap.
permaculture and consumerism are two different doors apart. I hate to sound like a Marxist or whatever talking about this concept that we don't need consumerism, but the truth is we don't need to waste all of our wealth and the money that we make on stupid things like gasoline or diesel fuel or electric bills. Um, when you have permaculture, you have an earthship style house. Your house is providing the food. You can grow your own organic food and not depend on a grocery store that's trying to feed you poison GMO food. And you don't need city water that has fluoride in it. You don't need the electric companies, bullshit, whatever price of kilowatt hour rate that they're charging you. So really, it's like there's two different paths for humanity are possible. If we can be stuck on consumerism, or we can accept abundance and generate wealth, provide for our own means, and not depend on the system as we know it.
Yeah. And this really monetarily incentivizes the gas, coal, and oil industry to start using, fusion, cold fusion reactors like the TSG or the Geet, because they'll actually start making money. They're already, they're already spending money on green programs and carbon credits and trying to reduce their carbon footprint. Well, this makes them money because they can create more for less and be greening the environment. Yeah, they'll create more carbon credits. They'll be greening the environment. And so that just makes them look even better. And so they make money while cleaning up the planet. And it really is kind of their responsibility to clean up the mess they made.
Yeah, you think they should be divesting into, instead of building new oil drilling platforms, they should build a system that gently scoops up the plastic out of the ocean and does the Julian Brown microwave pyrolysis process. And then ships can be pulling up and using that as the bunker fuel. And then with a Geet reactor or hexameter reactor or thunderstorm generator type engine on board those ships could actually be cleaning the air as they're running on trash for fuel. We can actually reverse climate change. We can take the carbon out of the air. We can also take the nanoparticulates of, whatever that stuff that's the fuel additives for jet pollution. We can get all the nanoparticulates out of the air too if we're running enough thunderstorm or whatever plasma fuel reformer engines. I was asking ChatGPT the other day if all engines on Earth were retrofitted with a plasma fuel reformer technology, how long would it take to cut the CO2 levels in half? And it said it would only take a few decades.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it just goes to show why did Spotify censor the Malcolm Bendall interview with Joe Rogan? Why? Like, the technology to change the world for the better. If climate change really is a problem, why don't they want us to know it's possible that we can fix these things? I'm determined to do these experiments myself because I'm mad about this. This question boils my blood.
Yeah, we've been brainwashed. Our science has become kind of a cult religion. Scientists are now incentivized monetarily to keep their jobs and keep tenure. You have to agree with your peers, and if you don't, you could possibly lose your income, and then you can't support your family. And so now science has become more a practice of agreeing with your peers and putting forth new ideas. So yeah, and so we've been brainwashed to believe like we're at the pinnacle of technology, and this is the most technologically advanced humanity has ever been. But clearly, it's not true when you look at the pyramids and all these ancient archaeological sites that have architecture that we can't even recreate today. Also, shout out to Nature Jab, Julian Brown. and he's turning plastic waste into fuel. So that's at Nature Jab on YouTube. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I think it's pretty mind-blowing. If you follow Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, Bob Greenyer talks about how microfusion reactions are happening like in nature all over the place, like in water. If you have a Buddhist singing bowl full of water and you hit the right tone and make like 25,000 hertz tone, that makes the right micro bubble implosions that make the fractal toroidal moment. And when those bubbles, if they hit the wall of the singing bowl, it causes transmutations in the metal, and you'll see a marring of the metal that looks like the yin yang. It looks like the Buddhist symbol. It's almost like the Buddhists and the ancient alchemists and the mystics or whatever, they all knew about this sacred geometry and how the universe is operating off of that. I don't know. That's one of the most mind-blowing epiphanies is to see that it makes this yin-yang symbol. It's like, where did that symbol come from? The ancients probably had the technology. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of our ancient symbology is kind of like you're looking at either the inside of some engine. It's like the blueprints of how to, the technologies we were using at the time. Yeah. So it's like you're seeing a 2D slice inside of the engine or inside of the implosion, the atomic reaction that's going on. So that's really cool. Yeah, and you brought up permaculture. I mean, this kind of technology makes permaculture that much easier to do for anyone and everyone. And when you combine permaculture, cold fusion, and AI, if we start training AI on these, like, these kinds of scientists who are creating cold fusion reactions, and you put that into a robot that's helping you build an off-grid eco-village, then I think we could get really different responses coming out of AI and robots.
Yeah, we need an AI that's trained on Jacques Fresco, futurist, and
Tom Bearden
concepts.
Yeah, and
like everyone can
Paul
have
Pantone.
a pond, like it's a living swimming pool. That's you have like fish, and you can have an aquaponic system, and like that could all be managed by AI systems that automatically adjust the pH of the water, and it could be totally organic because the AI helps manage it in a way that's using natural processes.
Yeah, I'm super into I'm a starseed, so I'm super into UFOs and studying ET cultures from other planets through other experiencers who have either been there or traveled there astrally or through their dreams. So from everything that I've learned and heard about, AI and robotics is a very basic technology in almost all of these worlds, and it is completely benevolent and safe. They have put they've put boundaries in place. For example, instead of reading your mind, the AI will actually just predict what you're going to do, and so that way it's not invasively reading your mind. It just does a prediction on what you're most likely going to do. And so that's just one example of a safety they put in place. But yeah, AI and robotics, like all of these advanced, peaceful, self-sufficient civilizations that are in harmony with the planet and their environment, they have AI and robotics, and they are able to use it in a healthy way that's symbiotic with nature. And so
it makes sense. It's like that singularity effect of tapping into information and knowledge, like ultimate information and knowledge. It's like the opposite of a black hole, like a white hole, singularity that uploads to like universal knowledge. And if you have seems like it's an inevitable thing that any advanced civilization is going to want to build a supercomputer that's calculating the meaning of the universe or whatever, That's why I'm so excited for my 42nd birthday, which is coming up this month. It's a Douglas Adams joke about, the meaning of the universe is 42. And I'm feeling such deep meaning in my life lately, studying with you and the thunderstorm generator community and David Pantone and our friends Alex Lossman and company. Really, it's like at this point now, I feel like truth is stranger than fiction. I have no interest in watching television or movies anymore because, yeah, the epiphanies are rich.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the quote Malcolm Bendall saying, like, the human body, the face, the Vitruvian man, we're built in the image of the
Yeah,
technology that runs the universe. You know, it's a
yeah.
torus, it's a yin yang. Um, so yeah,
The Da
we're
Vinci
using
drawing.
cold fusion in our bodies probably to create, you know, the energy that we do. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Dana the alien, I've been listening to her, and she talks about how plasma is like, that's the secret of the universe or whatever. It's like, that's plasma is the life force that it is the sun that's resonating with the earth, and plasma is the life force that's in our blood. Plasma is the life force that is electricity. Um, yeah.
Yeah, there's a book, I think it's A New Science of Heaven, that talks about these gigantic gas clouds that are in space. It's cold, dusty plasma. And because of the just ambient radiation coming off of different stars and all that, it electrically charges these cold, dusty clouds. And they actually end up forming these intelligent networks that connect each other electrically.
Wow.
And they even studied some of them are forming DNA helixes, which would kind of
Huh.
point to the fact that we are fractal in nature, and that DNA helix is inherently
Yeah.
it's the highest density of information storage that the universe can do, which is, you know, which is why our DNA is based on it.
It's
And
turtles
so
all the way
even
down.
yeah, even cold dusty gas clouds in space are doing it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that when I was in high school. I had a chemistry teacher showed me an article about how the chemical building blocks for life are homogeneously found throughout the universe, like even in those giant nebulous clouds. It's rich with the building blocks. So it's like, why would we be the only planet that has life forming on it? Not a chance.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, Dorian, or talk about? I do want to, at some point, I want to shout out your fundraiser. So if you go to
Yeah,
gofundme.com/f/Dorian's dash hydrogen dash reactor dash engine dash r dash d dash lab, you can find his GoFundMe there. And then you can also go to Facebook, Dorian Demetrulias, or his YouTube, and there's, you know, links there too.
yeah. So the need being for crowdfunding is because the scientific instruments are pretty expensive for the gas analyzer and for working with a CAD engineer, fabricating the device. I'm expecting just those things alone is going to cost a couple $1,000s. And then there's the computer controlled ignition software development, which once we get those things on the workbench and ready to start testing and running it, we're going to try and figure out how to make the servo valves mimic the way we'll be mechanically operating it, and to optimize the efficiency. Because once that steam reforming reaction's happening, then we can start leaning out how much fuel it's using. And the computer controlled ignition system, if it has the right sensors to be able to detect hydrogen gas production, we'll be able to make it run very lean and really start conserving the fuel. And also just make it more user friendly. That way it runs, all day if you have a generator and it's adjusting to the electrical load, or for throttle inputs for a vehicle, it needs the computer controlled ignition system. That way the fuel gasification matches the rate of the engine RPM. Those are basically the biggest engineering challenges that I discovered in the process of building my Geet reactor proof of concept bike. Crowdfunding donations are much appreciated. If anyone can put me in touch with an angel investor who wants to make a real significant donation, that'd be better than friends and family giving little $20 donations. I feel like at that level, I should just be paying for it. So
Yep. And this is for
Much
your
appreciation for everyone. We've raised $320 so far. That helped basically pay the CAD engineer to help me draw the 3D renderings.
yeah, and this is for the hexameter. So cool fusion punk technology. And yeah. All right. Anything else, Dorian?
I think that's a wrap.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Peace and love, everyone. I'll put links to all those things we mentioned in the description below. So yeah, please like, subscribe, and share it out to all your friends who are interested in permaculture, cold fusion, any of this stuff, free energy, over unity. Yeah, that's what we're all about here. And I'm Ash Growem, and yeah.
Cheers.
Peace and love, everyone.